Hey, 10th Plague. Hello, Kuiba. I'm gonna be doing a bunch of critiques today. Just making sure you guys can hear me. Let me see, is the microphone off? Alright. Anyway, alright, let's get started. This one is from Vandrake. Alright, for this one, there are several points, I guess. First of all, I think the cropping is kind of awkward. You see, you have all this empty space here, which is kind of different here. So it feels out of balance. You can either like make something like that, or you can extend this one a little bit. It feels more balanced. Like that. Thank you for the host, Pepson. But yeah, personally, I would make it smaller, like that. Then you have the figure cut at the knees, which is also something that makes it look awkward. So I would suggest that you avoid cutting figures at what could you call it at the joints. So yeah, like be careful that the joints are exactly at the frame. It could be the shoulder, could be the elbows, the wrists, the knees, the ankles. So look out for that. I'll break this one. Now let's just cut the wings, or rather, I better cut the figure instead. there are several issues with the anatomy. So first of all, the head's too small. I mean, too large. The ear that's poking out, I don't think it should, based on the angle of the head. Like, try and make a box robot. There's a little tilt. Yeah, make it bigger so I can add the stuff on the side. And let's take a couple minutes. So I'm thinking, yeah, I'll do an overpaint, I guess. See if you can get something useful from that. Alright, so I think we can make a list actually of the topics that I think would help you. So first, I would say the first thing I noticed was, or the first thing I corrected was an element of composition. Right? Let me see if I can find. I'm gonna grab some paintings. Sergeant and Bureau, because they are my favorite. Let's grab this one. So this one, for example, just to illustrate what I meant, it's like, you see how like he balanced both sides of the figure. He also cut it similarly, like at the thighs. You have it cut at the knees, cropped at the knees. But yeah, I cropped it so that it was higher, so you didn't have the knees on an awkward edge of the frame. But yeah, like the figure is fairly centered, has about the same noise on one side as the other. So that's the first thing that I corrected on your piece. Then we have anatomy. I'll show you so you can see. Like you had it like that. Oh, right, because I cropped the whole thing. Never mind. Right, so anatomy. Specifically, proportions. Let's keep capitals and everything. Proportions. Her head was too large, for example. Her eyes are too big. Her rib cage is too big. I don't know if you used the reference for this one, but yeah, overall all the proportions are a little off. So see if I can correct that. Let's close this one. Hey, also Art. This arm feels a little bit too long. And the wrist is a little bit too thick, especially from this angle, which is like the side view. It's thinner on the side view than the front. So what I mean is, like, if this is your forearm and these are the fingers, it looks thinner like that. Like this looks thinner if you're looking at it from the side. It's a very crappy drawing, but hopefully you get what I mean. It's very stiff, like it's a straight line. All the way to the tip of the fingers. So you might wanna adjust that so it's not so stiff. Maybe bend the arm a little bit. I suppose the pose in general is a rather stiff pose. You have a little bit too much definition. I don't know if you want her to be like super built, or if you're just doing it because you're figuring out anatomy. I used to do that a lot. I still do sometimes, where you define too much anatomy. It's not necessary. There's no, I don't think there's a defined light source. There's no clear light. I guess from the side, yeah, based on these shadows. But then this arm would be darker, wouldn't it? And you wouldn't have that, you would have a shadow here. And you wouldn't have a shadow here, like this is where the light's supposed to be hitting, right? Perhaps the shadow from the arm, but not on this side of the leg. This green is very green. Even if the light's hitting it. This entire part would be, if the light's coming from the left, it would be in a little bit of shadow. Just a little off balance. Some of the highlights are throwing me off with regards to the light. Gonna simplify the hand a little bit. Same thing with this one. It's too tiny hand. Alright, her boobs feel attached too high. Like, it should be a little lower, I think. Hey Víctor, estoy haciendo una critique de Vandrake. Okay. At this point, I'm just fixing anatomy, which is kind of boring, and I'm doing too much anatomy. Like I said, you shouldn't. But yeah, okay, so let's move on to the face. Now her forearm, this forearm is way too long. Like if you wrap your arm so that you can touch your shoulder, your elbow is more like around here. the first thing to work on is the gesture. Yeah. Yeah, like I was saying, it's kind of a stiff pose in general. But it depends on what you're focusing on. If you're trying to get the proportions right, this is a serviceable pose for figuring out like what the proportions should be. I guess you could have it be see, now I'm trying to figure out this area. This area is tricky. Yeah, you probably do want a reference for that arm. I think it's probably this entire thing should be moved this way. Maybe that's what's throwing me off. This is all anatomy. I still can't figure out this arm. Let's fix the face for a little bit so I can stop looking at it and get perspective, because I've been staring at it too long now, so it's start getting harder and harder to see how to fix it. So first the ear needs to be a little lower. Let's do a structure overlay here. Hairline. Alright, let's take a couple of minutes. I'll go grab some water and I'll be right back. All right. I guess you wanted her looking up a little bit, so I have to change the structure. I'm trying to match it as close as I can to your angle. I don't think I can. Yeah, because the eyes are like doing this line. And then the nose, it's like going this way. And the mouth too. Alright, so I think that's the angle you probably wanted. So it's a little bit more like to the side. So I can see what I'm doing. So the challenging thing for me is to try and do this on top of your drawing. Which is more difficult for some reason than it looks. Well, because I'm thinking like I can just paint it and change it, but I don't know if that's super useful for you. I guess, yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna grab a darker body for this, so I can do some drawing. Her nostrils are too separate, so I'm gonna remove them for now. Just gonna get rid of them. Just gonna do the shape of the nose first without nostrils, and then this highlight, it's not in the right place. Oop. So I'm gonna simplify the values. Gonna make the eyes smaller, and that I'm gonna keep the darks for now. I'm gonna take them off. We don't need them yet. Gonna get rid of a lot of the detail you have here. The eyebrows are a little bit too low. And the shadow under her nose is way too dark also. So you want to keep it subtle. You don't want to do the thing on the top of the lip. That's for the very end, and it also has to be super subtle depending on the light condition. So yeah, first step is get rid of a lot of the detail. And you see me keep flipping the image back and forth, because part of it's because I'm used to doing it, but part of it is also to constantly double check what I'm doing. So instead of using black, for the eyelids, I'm going to use a darker version of the skin, a little bit more saturated. And I'm gonna try and separate them a little bit. And get rid of this shadow here. And add some definition down here. Same thing for the lip. I'm just gonna make it a little darker, more red than the skin surrounding it. On the bottom lip, I'm gonna keep it fairly similar to the skin, except on the very corner where it goes into shadow. That part's darker. Same deal with the top one. The top lip also, as it goes away from the light, goes darker. Alright. Then I'm gonna make it smaller here. Get rid of the highlight. Alright, now we can do a little bit of a highlight on the cheekbone, which is over here, and it turns around here. Just gotta be careful not to go too dark. Doing the shadow from the hair. And saturating them a little bit. I think the eyes are still a little bit too close. Now we can start going a little darker, but I go darker slowly as I move along. Now we can start doing some of the nostrils. And from the side view, the upper lip extends a little further than the lower one, just a little bit. And you have a little bit of highlight on the corner of the mouth. There's a plane that's facing us there. Darken her eyelids a little bit more. We get a little bit of a highlight at the corner of the eye. And then a little bit of a shadow at the top of the nose. but it's very subtle. Then at the corner of the mouths you get a little darker, more darker than that. Alright. Then the neck, I think it's too thick. And that the hair in general, it's a little bit too close to yellow. I would, especially in the darker areas, I would move it closer to orange. Like around here. You gotta remember to not stay in the same hue when changing value. Like if I move it lighter and lighter, I'll move it closer and closer to yellow, but as I move it darker and darker, I'll move it closer and closer to red. Not too much though, like subtlety is the name of the game. You can always make it more, push it further. For the eyes, I'm guessing they were supposed to be blue. Now the whites of the eye are too white. I would make it closer to skin tone. Gonna be. It's a normal tendency to make the whites of the eye super white. But in this one in particular, they should be bluish, and somewhere around here should be fine. And as you move closer to the tear duct, you go into the pink and darker than that. More saturated, even darker than that. Alright. Also don't, like, I don't usually define the, like, if you have the eye like that, that's the worst eye. Let's try again. Okay, so if you have the eye like that, I don't do that. Like, instead I just do like the shadow. I don't even finish the closing it. Like, I'll do the shadow. This is for women. Well, some of it applies to men as well. And then the eye, it's just similar value, but I try to, especially around the eyes, I try to stay away from lines. So sometimes I even fuse, if I can, the iris with the upper eyelid. But I can spend hours painting faces. So I should be. Also, the nose, don't do that. That's always terrible, especially for women. For women, you just do the edge that's facing away from you, if at all. Like, if you're looking at a female from the front, it's just like, how do I explain this? Let's stick to this one in particular. The point is, you don't do this. You just do the nostril, and then from the nostril you do a little bit of shadow, but it has to be really, really, really light. Like you don't want to do a shadow there. Especially if the light's coming from that side. It's like they're forcing you to do a shadow there, but you're trying to hide it as best as you can. I kept her eyebrows way too low. Yeah, it's fine. Now, the closer you have the eyebrows, like if you have the eyebrow like this and then the eye like that, this is the eye of a man. Like they are manly eyes, and women have like a much larger space between this space between the eyebrow and the eye. So that's what I'm trying to push the eyebrows a little further up. All right. And then I'm just like I'm picking the same color, but just by saturating it becomes a little bit darker, because as you saturate colors they go darker in value, and because I want it to be a subtle shift in value, not too harsh, and the more red you add, it'll go darker. Like I almost think of it like dark colors and bright colors. Like red, this red is darker than pink or magenta or whatever you want to call this color. And then red again is also darker than yellow. I'm just changing the color, but I'm gonna show you something in a moment. And then blue, this blue is also darker than this color, and is also darker than this color. Now I only changed the hue, but I kept the saturation and value in the same spot. But if you turn it into black and white, like you can see, oh, these are actually very similar. Huh. Fancy that. I did not know that. Well, I guess I needed to go a little further. Nope, a little less. Huh. That is interesting. Alright, so pink, I guess, is fairly dark as well. Or purple, or not purple, pink or magenta. Whatever this color is. Right. But anyway, the point is, you see how they all had their own value, even though I only changed the color. Hey, Daddy Milas. So that's something to keep in mind. And blue is by far darker than all of them. The brightest one is yellow, and it's between yellow and cyan, but I think yellow can be way brighter. Yeah, yellow can go almost like, it's almost white here, this yellow, and cyan cannot go that bright, I don't think. Yeah, no, it's just darker. So it goes blue, red. Let me just do numbers. So it's darkest 1, 2, 3. Well, I guess this is this both. What color is this? Oh, yeah. 2, 3, and these two are the same color. 4, 5, and 6. This is also the same color. And 7. This is the brightest one. Yay. value. This is just talking about value. I'm learning along. I didn't know these two colors were that close. That's new information for me. Anyway. Anywho. Then I should go brighter. Just on this side, like this is like a plane that turns, goes into shadow a little bit, not too much. You get on the opposite side, you get a little bit of light and shadow in the same. But that by that same token, you get. So basically you get this thing going on where you have the eye, you have a shadow here, I'm just doing it so you see, but don't do lines when doing the eye. And then let's say the other eye is here, and you also get the shadow here, but because the light is here. Let's say the eye is like that. The eyelid. And the other eye. Right, the eyelid. Alright, do you see what I mean? So this is dark, this is dark, this is dark. Like that, but much more subtle. But a lot less than that. Okay, so that's critique number one. Oh, I never did figure out the arm. It's too pale. Just add a little bit of color so it looks more consistent with the rest of her. Very pinkish skin. And this would be all in shadow. I didn't go into colors too much because you need to fix everything else first. But the colors here are very like crayon colors. I wouldn't go this saturated with the hair. And again, as you turn around, like the hair goes around her head shape, so you gotta keep that in mind. Also, like when you go darker on colors, one thing you can try is to like every time you move down here, try and saturate it a little bit, and every time you move up, desaturate it a little bit. Just to get you started, but then there's a bunch of different subtleties that you need to learn. So you'll always see me moving this way, like from white to darker, 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 darker. You also have to change the hue here as you move brighter, and as you move darker, more red, or it could be more blue. It depends on what you're doing. That's why, to start off, like just to begin, don't worry too much yet about that. Just make sure that you saturate the darks and desaturate the lights, and then slowly you can start learning when not to do that, because does not always apply. Everything is contextual. And check your values. That's more important than anything else. Hey, Milas. I'm still trying to figure out that arm. Yeah, I'm doing critiques for people on Discord. I joined, but if you had to help me, it would take years. Well, doesn't matter. The sooner you start, the better. Alright. So, what else? Let's try and figure out that arm. Guess, yeah, I need reference. I don't think I can do this from memory. With green, well, I know I said I wasn't gonna go into the colors, but I lied. I usually go with either a blue-green or a yellow-green, but I try not to pick a complete green, because it always looks weird to me. So I always tilt it towards the yellow or towards the cyan. Depending on whether the light is cold or warm, or whatever, I feel it's gonna look nicer. Too dark. Some shadows on the wings as well. I think that neck is still too wide. Cut that. Might also be too long. Don't know where to start though. Anywhere. Take it from there. Start somewhere and just take it from there. Choose something you want to do and start there. But this is probably way too much information. Anyway, let's move on to the second one because I think it's been an hour already on this one. This one is by This one's by ShittyClown. ShittyClown, right? And I think he did mention he wanted overpaint, so let's just go straight into that. The first thing that strikes me is that you're trying to do lightning on a white background. And that's always gonna be a pain. Like, if you want something to be glowy, you want to have it surrounded by dark value. So let's see if I can just pick white, not contagious, and then delete that, make this black. Right. Oh, overpainting this one is gonna be quite a substantial amount of work. I can just remove though. Yeah, let's just lasso out the white. It's fine, I'm just gonna do it like that. Like that. Like that. Just removing the white. Just removing the white. Have you ever drawn something not fantasy? I did a bunch of cowboy paintings. Do that count as not fantasy? Hey again, Fox. At the very beginning, I did a couple of sci-fi things, fan arts from StarCraft. Alright, so that's the whites removed. Then we go into the anatomy and foreshortening look okay. The flow, the movement looks all right. I think you would benefit from... Oh, right, the background. I was gonna... Okay, so it's pure black, which is fairly boring. So let's change it. Let's make it a gradient. From light to dark. Something like that. Much more. There we go. Alright. And then let's have a... Let's have some shadows. I'm gonna do a new layer and multiply. Darken some of it. It's way too dark. So I'm doing the cast shadow of the lightning thing. You might have too many folds in the cloth. And let's add some glow. Another layer, soft light. this one. We don't wanna clip this one. Right, and very bright blue, soft airbrush, and gonna paint that, and more saturated. Yeah, something like that. Then on the original one, just gonna paint. Yeah, I would simplify the folds on the skirt. There's too much noise going on. Same deal on the top part. I'm thinking of using a warm shadows to contrast the blue light, the cold light. But that's just an experiment. I don't know if it's actually gonna work. So warm shadows. linear dodge layer, color dodge with blue, some highlights. Alright, brighter than that. Outside glow a little bit. I'm just painting and erasing. It's too strong. What else? Alright, now a normal layer. This is the overpaint. To a little wireframe because I have some. I'm gonna keep it blocky. Let's take a quick break. Back. You love this dude's style? Yeah, it's cool. Alright. Let's try that again. This time we're going to do this part first. I don't know, his legs seem short to me. So let's do that. Let's do that. Just adjusting. much. The problem with the perspective makes it a little more challenging to figure out the proportions. Current layer. But yeah, something like that. Yeah, you can see this is the before, and this is with the critique. And because just a gradient background is boring, I would probably add some texture to it. And because the thing is blue, I would probably go with a warm blue. Oop. We want to do that in the background. A bluish red, which is kind of like, I mean a reddish blue rather, which is kind of purple. Oh, I guess we could do some of the light so it looks like it's glowing on the floor. Let's make it not that intense on the floor. Yeah, I think that foot would be in the shadow completely. So that's gonna be my critique for ShittyClown. Let's see, this one is by Yasumora. And this is very nice. Yeah, I like this one a lot. I like the colors, the lighting. Has a nice like special camera lens effect, which I like. Yeah, there's not much I would change about this one. Her nose is a little bit too large, but that is just a style thing. And you have a light coming from the top. So the bottom of the nose usually has a little bit of reflected light on it. Her nostrils are a little bit too dark, I feel. She's got one eye like a little bit droopy, which we can fix very easily. It'll liquefy. Same thing. Oh, same thing with the nose. Her nose is very red, which I'm assuming is from cold weather. She's well, the top of her looks like she's ready for the cold, but the bottom it's like she's wearing shorts. So it's kind of a it's an interesting concept. But based on the way you rendered her face and the values of her face, I'm assuming it's supposed to be like cold. Her eyebrows are a little bit too dark. Again, like, you have this black outline for the iris, which I would remove. Now you have the highlight on the eye and the lightness of the iris on the same side, and it's usually opposing. So if you have a highlight here, then the bright part of the eyelid would be on that other side. Like, if you have the highlight here, then you have the brightest part of the iris here. Same deal on this side. I'm just gonna lighten much of the nose. Feels a little bit too much. And so your highlights are very desaturated and very white. I might not go that, yeah, like they're fairly low in the value range, so you can go with more saturation. For some of these greens. just make them a little more vibrant. And I'm adding some blue into the whites. Some cyan. Again, just to make it a little more vibrant, so it's not so black and white, so very, very washed out. Now these look really dark. I think I'm gonna lighten up this area here. Like, for a female it's too much. Women don't have that deep crease here. Yeah, I think overall it's the your shadows and your highlights need a little more color. So in this case might be a little more yellow because it's like bouncing from this green thing, so it moves the red of the nose towards the yellow, so it has to go through the yellow to get to the green. Like if your red is here and the light hitting it, it's over here, then it kind of averages in between. Not yellow though, it's like orangey. Because dark yellow looks ugly. It's better to turn it into an orange. Gonna lighten up nostril a little bit. The shadow might be a little bit too dark. yeah, the composition and everything else looks very nice. Maybe there's a little bit of awkwardness here. Whatever this structure is supposed to be, it's too close to the edge, I think. This one's too close to the ear. Like, it's usually either you overlap or you give some room to breathe. If you're not going to overlap shapes, it is often better to just give them room to breathe. But I really like this painting overall. Very nice work. Nice job. I think that the shadows should be a little warmer though, because the light feels a little cold. So if you have cold light, you want to try out some warm shadows. And by warm, I don't mean go straight to red, but if the light is like a blue cyan, you might want to do the shadows dark blue, or maybe even a purple, which is what I'm doing. Purple is warmer than cyan, but that's just I do it by trial and error. Like, I paint a little bit, see if it's the right color and value, and if it's not, I adjust it, and I adjust it until it looks right. This color looked right. Alright, let's not mess it up. But yeah, overall good job. I know. Let's take a quick break. Hey Felony, it's just a critique from people on Discord. on to the last one. Let me just really quick add some of that warmness. I'm also adding like warm green to the darker greens. See how that looks, if it looks nice. But might not be the right. And a cold green for the brighter areas, which is what you had, but I'm pushing it more, like I'm pushing the saturations. Right, so now I'm thinking like this part should be reflecting the green from up here. I want to keep it very dark like you had it. Now I usually tell people not to go too dark with white, but in your lighting scenario it kind of looks cool with the really dark shadows. Well, not kind of looks cool, it looks cool. I like this harsh lighting. But yeah, the whole thing pops out very nicely. Very good job. And finally, this one is by Henry. All right. This is gonna be the last one. How long have we been? 2 hours and a half. All right, doing all right. This is I guess a traditional drawing, pencil drawing. It looks very nice. The proportions could use a little work, although it does look fairly stylized. I would push the page a little so she has more room for her feet. Something like that. And then yeah, it's mostly anatomy, like let's go with grayscale. Yeah. All right. So I mean, I don't know, because it's I feel her shoulders are too large, but that's not necessarily wrong. If you want to give her like a strong physique, like a weightlifter, I'm gonna push the shoulders a little bit lower in this part. This one is tricky because the tabard usually wouldn't bend like that. So let's say she's wearing these like tabard style. So I'm trying not to go too dark with the belly. It's just that this looks like a random a random piece of cloth. Let's use this brush. Her boobs feel a little bit, I don't even know what the word is. I guess too round instead of the teardrop. It's just that at the very top of the breast, you don't want to define too much. Like, you don't want to do that. This kind of stuff. Because it feels like she's got like the torso and then the boobs are attached perfectly to it. And that's not, like, usually that's not, unless it's like breast implants. But you probably want to stay away from that. But even I do it sometimes, so I know, I get it. It is a balance of value in the end. It's just a matter of having really good control of, because it does go a little bit darker. This plane is facing, like, this plane is facing up, right, and this plane is facing forward, more or less. So there is a shift in value, but you want to understate it, if anything, so it's not too much. So let's darken this part. The hands look very nice. The arms in general, they just feel, I think it's because of her legs, that the arms feel really large, like really big. It's a proportion thing. Oh wait, need to copy the whole thing. Or rather, her legs might be the ones that were too short. And like, I'm also like considering the fact that you did this as a line drawing, so you don't have like the same value techniques available. So what I would do if I was just doing line art is just hint at this and get rid of the other lines you had on top. Like, I would just get rid of these lines. These lines are not needed there. And just do one line here. And not completely curved, but like a little bit like a teardrop. So maybe something like that. Yeah, it's more difficult with lines. You gotta know which lines to do and which ones to keep which lines to do and which not to. I think you don't need these lines either. I keep forgetting that the eraser isn't actually erasing. Yeah, the shoulder is a little bit too round at the top. Alright, anyway, like, I stretched her legs. very nice drawing, Henry. I think that's pretty much it. Just make the legs longer. Beware on defining too much of the roundness of the boob, the roundness of the shoulder. The face is like awesome. Like you did a great job on the head. The hair as well. I like the hashing. It's a little arbitrary though. You might want to try and stick to a one specific angle when hatching. Like try and keep it consistent. Just when drawing, just rotate the page so that you can hash the same direction. But overall, very nice. You have some very realistic anatomy going on. This arm does need some rework. It's going inside, like the shoulder is going in, and then the elbow is going out. So this happens when you, like when you're looking at this part and focusing on getting this right, and then you forget how it attaches to the shoulder, how it actually attaches to the shoulder. Like if you look at it from this side. Right. Oops. So yeah, before, after. We just move the entire stuff. If I can manage to select it. There you go. Yeah, good job everyone. So that's gonna be it for today. So I hope you guys found it somewhat useful. As always, I'll be posting this on YouTube on Monday. Should be up. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. That's gonna be our show for today. Thanks for watching, everyone.